Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for episode X of Travelers on the Omnibus. They didn't want that in there. Okay, no, that's perfect. So, like that wonderful little, echo that you guys just got, I had to shut it off because Ethan has the buttons tonight.
It was a premature.
It was a premature buttonation.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. I immediately regretted it the moment I asked you to put together the road captain this week.
Yep.
That's okay.
That's what happens when you just say, I'm going to wing stuff, and then, we.
But ladies and gentlemen, seriously, welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. I am James McCarthy.
I'm Jody Kite.
I am Ethan.
I am Edwin Bartholomew Megadeth. No, I'm sorry. I'm Brady Davis.
The poll this week is, which would you have preferred, Edwin Bartholomew Megadeth or Brady Davis? We're going to find that out this week.
Yeah. I have a feeling I know which one is going to win that.
We're going to find out. That's going to be good. No, but ladies and gentlemen, thank you for showing up to the very 10th episode. 10 episodes, gentlemen. 10 weeks of recording 10 episodes. I think we've done a pretty good job with that.
Yes,
I'd have to agree.
There you go.
I think we've done all right.
Yeah, so outside of recording this podcast, what have we been up to? Brady!
Oh, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I come before you a defeated man. I have been beaten down. I have been ground down. There's nothing left. And I bought the Star Wars Legion
Starter kit?
Starter set.
Which one?
The the Republic versus the Separatists, I think is what it's called. I don't know.
I shall form a grand army of the Republic
to
counteract the actions of the Separatists.
So our good friend Jason Holder, for it feels like a year, but I don't think that's correct.
It's literally been a month. It's been a month.
Well, it's felt like a year.
Time has no meaning anymore.
Yeah, time has no meaning. Every chance that he gets, he is evangelizing and proselytizing the virtues of Star Wars Legion.
Brothers and sisters.
Yes, which is the Star Wars miniatures game, not the vehicle miniatures game. That's X-Wing, not the really big miniature vehicles game. That's Armada. This is the ground troops game. So every chance that he is telling me, yeah, this is really cool about this, and this is cool. So I broke down and I bought the set. So I guess I'm doing Star Wars Legion.
I got my Rebel stuff for Star Wars Legion. I've actually painted Luke Skywalker. Empire Strikes Back Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I put together a couple of clones in Obi-Wan.
There you go.
While we were watching wrestling.
I love that Obi-Wan model. That is
it's a good model.
Very cool model.
They all look like really good models.
Yeah,
so much so, Brady, that I think we're going to make the other travelers play the game with our stuff. Where no cost. You don't have to jump in on the game. Not asking y'all to do that, but I think it's a very fun system. I think you guys would enjoy it.
Oh, I'm down to try any game, man.
Yeah. Well, I would kind of like to play it first since
you were
play with your toys before you can.
Since you were basically dragging.
I already have another metric ton of plastic that I don't play with.
We're gonna fix that in this summer. This is gonna be the summer of minis. And I'm not talking about.
It's not the first time we've said that. I ain't
talking about micro bikinis, girls, though I would appreciate. Just saying. Let's say.
If you want to, it's all up to you.
If you want, it is
you have the right to wear what you want to wear.
Yes, exactly.
Nobody is going.
I merely suggest, but it is your choice.
Yes.
Okay, that's a weird awkward pause. I appreciate that.
You're gonna have to cut that out.
No, I mean, we'll just cut the pause. No, now I can't cut the pause because we've referenced the pause.
Someone say
people love silence on these things, right? We're really podcasting well.
There's a whole podcast that begins with the word silence.
We're doing a really good job with this podcast.
There we go.
10 of them. You think
episode 10,
this.
baby?
Episode 10 was so avant-garde. It was 20 minutes of crickets. I love it. That's what our one French fan said. Mm-hmm. We don't have a French fan. All of our people are the United States right now.
Okay.
Though an inordinate amount of people from Georgia
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I will take any viewers I can get.
That is fair enough.
Yeah.
So, what has anybody else been doing? I guess.
See, I was hoping for an organic someone jump in.
No.
That's why the awkward pause happened the first time.
I think it's still
Maybe that's why the entire format that we've been doing this is just the person asks with another person.
There you go.
Well, if I have
No
to
one's talking to you, Ethan. Jody, how have you been?
I've been pretty good, actually. I recently read, I think last week I said I read Junji Ito's Gaio, and went through the bells and whistles
With
of what
zombie robo
zombie
sharks,
fish. Yeah, zombie fish.
Oh yeah.
Supported by robo farts.
The
or zombo farts.
the complete graphic novel, which is a completion of the whole manga, is probably around like 500 pages, something like that, or at least that's what I remember, by 400 pages. So I watched there's an anime adaptation of this, and it's a movie, quote unquote, at 53 minutes. So they squeezed 400 pages in 53 minutes, and
That's plenty of time.
Real talk.
Yeah,
Ito's a very visual storyteller.
he is.
Yeah, I could see where, like, if you without a lot of dialogue, yeah, I could see a 500-page like art book condensed to about 53 minutes.
They went through the first 50 pages in the first 5 minutes of the anime movie.
That checks.
They changed almost everything, with the exception of the robotic fish. So
you gotta get the robotic fish.
And in the manga, there is, like I said last week, there is the fiancés, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, like hanging out at the beach house in Okinawa when shit gets real. In the anime, the boyfriend is in Tokyo. He's a producer, and the girlfriend is at the beach house with her two girlfriends who are not in the manga.
So they literally cut it down to 53 minutes and then added shit. How is that possible?
And then one of those girls asked two guys to come over because she wanted to have a three-way.
Oh, okay.
And then immediately during the three-way scene, the robotic shark's just like kind of like walking past the window and like looks through and just jumps through the fucking shit. And things get fucking nuts. In the manga, the zombie fish don't show up on mainland Japan until like halfway through the book. 5 minutes. Five minutes.
This sounds like my type of clusterfuck.
It
Like,
was.
it just really
It
does.
is a complete. I read the manga and I'm like, if you didn't read the manga, it's a batshit crazy fucking anime to watch in 50 minutes. If you read the manga, you're angry the whole time.
The shark peering through the window.
Right.
Like, I don't know why, but it reminded me of the Saturday Night Live sketch of the land shark.
Yeah.
It's like our candygram.
All the
Just open it up and then the shark starts eating.
all the like, Junji Ito like slow burn build up to like a reveals and all that. That shit's fucking gone. We're just like,
well, we only have 53 minutes.
We got to get this shit
Sir,
going.
we have to get this done.
And so that happened, and I've been reading the entire work of Uzumaki.
Okay.
AKA
Spiral.
AKA Spiral, which there was I think 2002 film adaptation of it that I saw many years ago that was bad. And the manga's outstanding. It's really interesting because it's longer. It's, I think, one of his longest works he did. It starts out with like setting the tone of the story about this town and how people are obsessed with spirals in the town, or slowly people are starting to lose their minds, and there's something wrong with this lake in the middle of the town, and all of that. And it follows some of the same characters, but it follows them through short stories that have a overarching theme of spiral in it, while also telling a bigger story at the same time. Some of them are kind of like sort of like compartmentalized like to themselves, but they still have characters that are in the whole entire scope of the story. So it's a very interesting way of telling. I'm almost done with it, so I'll have to tell you how I feel about it when I'm finished, probably next week. But yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Okay.
Cool.
Now,
you may have sensed some either anger and or just very friction between myself and Ethan Skinner. I preface this portion by saying that, ladies and gentlemen, the Travelers on the Omnibus always tells you to drink responsibly, do not drink and drive, and also if you are not yet the age of majority in your jurisdiction, just do not drink. However, Ethan is of the age of majority in our jurisdiction, and he bought his first alcohol. So you bought some Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, right? No. Oh, okay. So you bought maybe a nice wine, like a red wine or a white wine.
Maybe a Smirnoff.
If you're white trash, I guess.
Yes. No, that's Taka, sir.
No.
Wonderful guesses, but still incorrect.
Maybe you got a 6-pack of just some beer.
I have to interject this. Smirnoff, white trash. Taka, white trash-est.
I didn't know there was a tier list.
Sir, I was talking about Smirnoff Ice. Thank you very much.
That's not... Well, no, it is alcohol, but I would
Have
not
y'all seen
call
that the whole thing of icing is back now?
Yeah, icing will never go away.
Man,
it is the herpes,
jump off a bridge.
It is the herpes of drinking culture.
Yeah, it does come back.
So anyway, but no, getting back to this thing. So it's like
herpes, the gift that keeps on giving.
Like what else? Like Crown Royal. You got Crown Royal, right?
I did get
Crown Royal. Classic Crown Royal Canadian liquor. It's great. So you got straight up Crown Royal.
No, not necessarily.
Oh, what did you get?
I got the Crown Royal Peach.
I like how you looked away from me to look at the bottle in the fact that might save you. You haven't been peach.
Yes.
Why didn't you just get peach schnapps?
That's what I was thinking.
And just straight up dunk that shit.
And save yourselves $20.
Do not straight up dunk that shit. That is irresponsible.
I've heard some recommendations, some good things from some friends of mine, and I thought I'd give it a try. So
what is your opinion of it?
I haven't tried it yet.
You haven't even tried it yet.
I'll give you an update.
Always drink responsibly.
I will give you an update.
You will give me an update. So
yes, I will give you an update.
I gave Ethan his first lager tonight.
Yes,
he had a Heineken for the first time.
I did have a Heineken. For the first
okay.
time.
Yeah.
See, okay, so the beer front, you've done very well.
It was one of the.
It's not the worst.
It's one of the
They're much better.
beers
I agree.
I've tried so far.
Real talk. Don't let anyone ever pressure you into drinking or what to drink.
No.
This was more.
Yeah, drink what you like.
Drink what you like.
What's available? What you like.
If you like shit beer or shit whiskey or whatever, that's fine.
We reserve the right to criticize you. But we have
just
no right.
know we will criticize you.
I can't say anything because I'm pretty certain that my first liquor purchase was Taka vodka. So
see what I mentioned earlier. I'm just gonna say that right now.
So there you go. You at least got some kind of Crown Royal.
Yeah. You did choose a
I didn't choose
brand.
the bottom tier vodka. I chose the next to bottom tier vodka.
That is true. Like that bottom shelf is Dobra.
You don't want to touch that Aristocrats.
Yeah, Aristocrats. It was the bottom at my liquor store.
Wait, Aristocrat is at the bottom, and then behind the Aristocrat is Dobra. You buy Dobra to do two things: dye and thin house paint. In that order.
When we wanted to get drunk, we bought Smirnoffs and then shot Taka, and it was bad.
It might be acceptable now to buy liquor in a plastic bottle. 20 years ago,
Probably
however,
not.
getting a gallon of vodka in a plastic jug for $7 was never acceptable.
Yeah,
that's Aristocrat.
Unless you're shoving a rag down the thing and lighting that motherfucker on fire.
Yes.
Or
That's
putting
the
it
only
in
way.
your car.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, does your gas not give you enough pick me up your car? Try Taka.
Yeah.
Do not put Taka in your gas tank.
If you want to have a immediate hangover and headache, just drink an Aristocrat screwdriver. Not even drinking the alcohol straight.
Yeah, shoot Taka if you want alcohol poisoning the next morning and you want to literally throw up every 20 minutes. I timed it.
Do you want to have a good excuse for not going anywhere the next day that you can only use once? Like, let's say you don't want to go to work. Drop a half a bottle of Taka down your throat.
Yeah.
Then call your boss and go, I can't come into work today. Why not? I dropped a half a bottle of Taka. Oh, okay. Is this the first time you've done that? Yeah. Okay. No.
Yeah.
We're cool, man. Just like we're gonna take a PTO
So
day.
you can't use that excuse for Aristocrat because if you drank a half a bottle of Aristocrat, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what happens when you drink gallon bottles of vodka.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Or alcohol that's not very well distilled.
Yeah.
Final point on this. What was your first alcoholic beverage on your 21st birthday?
My first alcoholic beverage was an Angry Orchard that I purchased at Outback Steakhouse.
Okay. Yeah.
Which
I don't hate that.
Of all the alcoholic drinks I've had so far, that's probably my favorite. Because from all the beers I've had, besides the Heineken, they're not really that good. They're just not good.
Beer is an acquired taste, but
Yeah.
I think that there are some very good beers out there.
Yeah,
I think everyone should get a beer. Everyone
Yeah.
should have one beer.
Yeah.
I've got two. I've got Budweiser and Heineken. I also like a Red Stripe every so often.
Red Stripe is all right. I don't mind a Red Stripe.
I like, when we did our tier thing that one time, I prefer Killian's, but you can't buy Killian's in most gas stations or anything like that.
Yeah. My favorite beer of all time is Bass Pale Ale.
I bet you could find a Killian's at Buc-ee's. You can find anything at Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's has everything.
Buc-ee's
Yeah.
has everything. And Beaver Nuggets.
Beaver nuggets.
Yeah. Killian's, I
Yes.
think you can get at some supermarkets.
It's at most grocery stores, but if
Yeah.
you at a gas station, your choices of lager are Heineken, and if you want to count Corona.
Yeah. Now, if you do want a Corona-like beer, Land Shark that is that good lighter beer.
I can't do Land Shark.
You can't do Land Shark.
I've been around it too much at a former job that I can't talk about due to a non-disclosure.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
Sometimes those things happen.
Yeah.
Our good friend Jason Holder, he was telling me to try Woodchuck. Was it?
Woodchuck,
If you
Woodchuck.
like if you like Angry Orchard, I
Yeah,
think
Woodchuck is probably the better one. There's another one of those. I guess they're ciders.
Ciders, yeah.
But I cannot remember what the name of it is. It's like it has like a big apple on the bottle. I really like those. They're a little bit drier, and I don't mind like a drier.
If we do like a drinking thing like we did for not this year, but it was last year's WrestleMania, wasn't it? That we got the liquor for, or was it this year?
It was that we made that thing.
Yeah, that sweet, that super awesome
That
fruit-
D&D punch that we
Yeah.
saw on How to Drink.
It was very good.
That was actually we did that on Halloween.
Was that Halloween? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was because it cooled off. Okay.
Yeah.
So my sense of time and space again. But no, again, I'll always drink responsibly, but find something you like to drink.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Indeed.
it is acceptable for it to be Crown Royal Peach, but maybe pick like an actual like thing first before you start putting flavorings in it. Like it's not a Sonic. You can't get like a cherry limeade.
Yeah, my
Just
first
immediately.
rum was Captain Morgan.
Yeah,
Just
straight up Captain
Straight up
Morgan.
Captain
Yeah.
Morgan.
And see, I'm not a big liquor person, so I prefer beer. So I'm
My first one of rum was Bacardi 151 straight.
Oh.
That was so. If I want to like, I'm getting on you because how you shouldn't be getting it. You should get on me by the fact it's like, why did you just drink straight up fuel additive?
Bacardi 151 has a metal
Gate
piece,
It's literally- it's
with
like a
holes
gate.
in it because it can catch on fire.
Yeah.
and it keeps it from just
sorry.
spouting
Yeah.
fire out.
Okay, so real quick, proof is how strong an alcohol is. Bacardi 151 is called that because it's 151 proof. Take that number, divide it by 2. That's the percent alcohol content. So it's 75% alcohol. For legal reasons, I've never done this, but for anecdotal reasons, buddy of mine, this was like 2004. We were hanging out at his pool, and we had some tiki torches around the pool. And so I took some Bacardi 151, swish it in my mouth, spit it at the torch, and like gout a flame because that's how it works.
Yep.
I did it again, and a buddy of mine told a joke, and I laughed at it, and so it held in my mouth a little bit longer, so it was a little bit more spit. So I went to spit. It didn't catch immediately, but it kind of landed like in a glob around the thing. And so then when that initial like moisture kind of went off, the whole tiki torch caught on the whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing. And I almost caused a pool to burn to the ground. Again, legal reasons never happened. Anecdotal reasons, one of the funnest nights we ever had.
Yeah.
Everclear is 190 proof.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everclear is just
What?
just grain alcohol.
But why? Why would they do this?
It's legal
Why?
moonshine.
Because people like getting drunk, Ethan.
People, yeah.
We're going to get fucked up.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
You never had anybody dump like 20 gallons of Everclear in a bathtub and have people just come by and just dip a cup in and just drink it?
No.
Ethan, you remember that story I was recanting on the way up here about the guy that took 100 shots, 100 Jello shots? Like he ate, he kept like eating Jello shots.
Okay, going back to the disclaimer.
Yeah.
What he just said. Don't ever
do it. We left him at the bottom of the stairs. We took his keys out of his pocket because he was wanting to go to get cigarettes. Yeah. And it's like, you've got cigarettes. You don't need to go anywhere. And he's like, shoving the keys into the carpet, trying to turn the keys. And as he's putting the keys in his pocket and we're pulling him out, this motherfucker has squirrel Jello shots in his fucking pockets.
Jesus.
And they're just falling out.
They're just falling out.
I had
like a pinata.
Like a pinata of Jello shots.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Drink responsibly.
Yeah, when you can light your Jello on fire and it'll burn for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's a little too much. A little too much.
Yeah.
One of our one passenger is getting a laugh out of
we have a studio audience, ladies and gentlemen, for the second week in a row. Bob Shinedown has returned to us.
Yes.
Bob Shinedown, thank you very much for being here. He is literally putting his hat on and like covering his eyes because he is ashamed of all the things we've mentioned here. It's very true and right.
Well, you did call him Bob Shinedown.
I did call him Bob Shinedown. Eventually, he will punch me. But there we go.
Damian Skinnerd.
Yeah.
Leonard Skinnerd. Damian Leonard Skinnerd.
Damian Leonard Skinnerd.
I'm gonna this is our second pause of the show. For me, my air conditioning doesn't work in my house. That is what I've been doing. Not all week. Literally, it went out on me today. But whenever your air conditioning goes out on you in South Mississippi, it adds a week for every day.
Yes.
I woke up and my body was soaked in saline salt sweat.
Yeah.
Just then I was like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? So yeah, I looked at the temperature. The temperature outside was 88 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
The temperature in my house was 89 degrees.
Yes.
That is how a convection oven works.
Yeah.
So we're getting that fixed, thank God. I may literally crash here in the studio tonight after I drop off one of our fellow travelers. I have considered that.
Probably not a terrible idea.
Probably not I may just sleep in the car. That might also not be a terrible idea.
Until you wake up at like 10 o'clock and it's like 200 degrees in your car.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for stopping by on the bus. You can always find us at Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. We are working, and by we, I mean I am looking into trying to get us on Amazon and maybe Stitcher.
Oh, okay.
So we will see in the future. We have an Instagram, which no one has posted on yet, but after this is recorded, but before you hear it, we will actually have our first things. Some of those will include a Luke Skywalker that I have painted for Star Wars Legion, because if a friend of mine's getting into it, I might as well help him out by also getting into it as well and adding to the player pool. So I think that's a very good idea. Gentlemen, and I will say this to you now so that the travelers have you or rather the passengers have you as witnesses. If you guys got stuff that you just want to throw on there, just like, this is what I've been doing, absolutely. So we have 3 pieces of quick feedback this week. One of them is actually from one of the travelers to another traveler, and he doesn't realize it yet. But that'll be the third one. Our first one comes from our friend Jason Kennedy, a.k.a. Hat, a.k.a. Siggy, a.k.a. Legionnaire. He has said he has listened to our episode on scores and soundtracks. He's asking us why we didn't mention the Blade rave music. I'm assuming from the initial scene with the blood rave at the start of Blade.
Yeah, that's a really cool scene and a good use of music. I guess I just didn't consider it as part of I guess it's technically like soundtrack.
Would you have called that diegetic?
Yes, that is definitely diegetic.
There you go.
Diegetic meaning the people in the movie can actually hear the music.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Or maybe I did someplace else.
As opposed to non-diegetic, which is just music that they cannot hear.
Yes.
Sometimes you will think that a song is non-diegetic, and then it will be shown to be diegetic. Say somebody is listening to it on the... We are way off.
Yeah.
We are way off from this feedback.
Yeah, I just tack on
you got my film nerd senses tingling.
There you go.
So
Very good.
Sure.
But no, I will add to that real quick. The part where I think he was questioning about that is because I mentioned the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, which as far as techno soundtracks,
yeah.
like that to me, again, that's still my favorite soundtrack of all time, and I would argue the best techno soundtrack of all time. That was not made by. I was about to call them Fallout Boy. What the fuck is wrong with
Daft Punk?
Daft Punk.
Yeah,
From the sequel to
really different.
Hum Hallelujah by Daft Punk.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, no, a techno soundtrack not made by Daft Punk. I think this is the Mortal Kombat.
Now that I'm thinking about it, Blade does. The first Blade movie does have a good like because you have that song, and then when Blade actually comes in and starts like killing all the vampires, the music in that is pretty good, and then the music towards the end when he's like having that final fight's pretty good as well.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about the score in that film.
Yeah, well, that's not the first thing that you really think of, and you don't even I don't even register like that the use of music in that part as necessarily as the score.
Because like first Blade movie was like 98.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I believe 98.
Something like that.
Our second piece of feedback comes from passenger Megan, aka Goon. She liked she loved episode 2 where we talked about 9 Princes of Amber so much so that she has requested that we read a story to her. This is not a joke.
I was just about to ask if she's fucking with us.
This is not a joke. She wants us to read a story to her. So I say, let's make this promise. In 2 weeks, a special feedback in that episode, we will read her the greatest story ever written, The Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss.
I suppose things can be arranged. For you, Megan.
Sure thing.
Sure,
Yeah.
whatever. Cool.
I like how you guys had like major concerns, and then Ethan's like, "Yeah, we'll do it." And they're like, "Oh shit, no, we gotta do it." Goddamn.
He's young enough that he still has hope in his heart.
All right. Our third piece of feedback.
Being diminished.
Our third piece of feedback.
Oh
is
yeah,
from-
we're stomping that down as we
pretty
go.
much. Is we have a very good topic this week, I thought, but these are 3 points I felt needed to get on the show.
Okay, yeah.
Like I don't know about you, but when a lady asks me to read her story, I'm reading that girl a story. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say
I guess we're reading her story.
there we go. All right. So the third piece of feedback is from me.
Ooh.
So if you have enjoyed what I call the two slappinest parts of this podcast, which is the intro song and the outro song, those are produced by our Jody Kite.
Oh,
Yes, the one
And
and
he
only.
let slip that he's been working on some music lately. And so, Jody, I would like to ask you in front of your fellow travelers and the passengers, I would like to hear like a full piece. Again, this doesn't have to be next week or anything down the line.
Right.
But as a way to play us out for an episode upcoming, I would like to hear one of, because I legitimately, the stuff you produced for us for the show, I thought was fantastic.
Yes.
I had to cut it to make,
Right, of
make,
course.
to make a,
Of
to make a
course.
time, but only to keep like the best parts about that. I love hearing our theme song. I know that sounds like very, but
Yeah.
no, but and that what you put together is very good. I would like to see a full piece from you, and I would like to present it to the travelers, to the passengers. Not again, doesn't have to be next week or any weeks down the line, but when you feel comfortable doing it, would you do that for us?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I probably have about like 20, 25 tracks on this project I'm working on now. So,
okay, that's cool.
I'm working on an album. So, or an EP, depending on how many tracks. Because when you're working on music, just like anything else, you have to make like way more than what you need because you don't know what's going to work within the theme of what you're doing. So you have to cut things out. So I'll probably trim that down to like 8. But yeah, one of those would probably be usable for that.
Alrighty. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the coming weeks or months or whenever, because we are not rushing good talent when we can appreciate it, you will one of our outros will not be the regular outro. It will be a piece from our Jody Kite, from him to us, and we thank you very kindly for that.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
If you would like to send us feedback, one, just if you know us, just walk up to us and say, "Hey, you guys suck," but hey, and then give us the feedback, because you know it always starts with a critique, but then it hits something positive. But if you don't know us and you're hearing us on the video internet, we're not on video, but whatever. If you are hearing us on the
Video
internet,
net.
travelers on the omnibus, all one word, @gmail.com. Again, that is travelers on the omnibus @gmail.com.
And you can also leave messages on Spotify directly.
Leave a message on Spotify. We also have polls and episode questions for all our episodes on Spotify. So, yes, absolutely. Gentlemen, 10 episodes in, we got to repeat at least one sketch.
One segment, yes.
We are back to the chalkboard, ladies and gentlemen. We are presenting a top 5 to you this week, which we are going to argue down and get to a refined top 5 of all time. This top 5 for our chalkboard is our top 5 video game series and franchises. Now, a little bit of kibitzing. For instance, if someone says the Mario series, they're going to refine it a little bit down because you have the Mario series, you have the Mario Sports series, which can include stuff like soccer and tennis and golf, and you have, of course, Mario Kart, which I believe is also its own thing, not just a Mario thing. So we went into that with that rule. We also have our nuclear bullets back. If we don't like anything that is number 2 or to 5 in someone else's list, we have the right to eliminate it from consideration from the aggregate top 5. We cannot touch the number 1s because the number 1s have what I like to call shine down protection. If it has some sort of great emotional impact to you that it is your favorite thing, we are not going to hurt you that bad. We're not going to nuclear bullet it. We might nuclear graze it, but we don't know about that. We're going to find that out. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let us start with Mr. Brady Davis and his top 5 video game series and franchises of all time.
Yeah, so I guess this is going to be a running theme if you remember with the board games. My top 3 were pretty solid. I had those in maybe not in the perfect order, but those were the first 3. The 4 and 5 maybe can change, especially 5. I think a lot of it is recency because the first of this game we do play a lot at the store, and that is Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur is definitely my favorite fighting franchise. There are others that I do really like. Fighting games are one of those genres that I really, really like, but I don't play a whole lot of because I just don't have the time to put into them. There's a lot of time that you need to be decent at them. But Soul Calibur is my favorite. The story and the lore is kind of but like the characters are always really cool and interesting, and a lot of the things like with the 8-way run and all that is very cool. So yeah, Soul Calibur. Number 4 could also, depending on some of my reasonings, could change one day. Legend of Zelda is number 4. I really like this series. I haven't played every single one of them, but I have played a whole lot of them. I played a lot of them on the handhelds. I think Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening was the first game that I got on my Game Boy. So I have a lot of nostalgia for that game. And I've even enjoyed, Breath of the Wild for its faults. The grading weapon stuff is crappy, but it does have a very interesting way of telling a story that's different from all the other Legend of Zeldas. So yeah, Legend of Zelda, that's one that's, so that's my number 4. Then number 3, these are pretty solid. Number 3 is God of War. I've played all of the God of Wars, even the PSP games. I never finished, what was it, God of War Ascension? Ascension?
Yeah, it was Ascension.
Yeah, that one I didn't like all that much, so I never finished it. But I played all of the God of Wars multiple times, except for the last one. I've only played it once, but that is, to me, the best one. The growing of the way that the story is told, because like the earlier games are they do have kind of some edgelordiness to them, even though they are good games. Kratos is a very kind of edgy character, but then the growth in the story that they have in the newest God of War and what I think is going to be in the sequel Ragnarok is very, very good. Like you usually don't see that kind of growth in a character, and it's very, very interesting. And the exploration of that is very, very good. But yeah, the combat in these games are phenomenal. The puzzles are really good. It has some really good boss fights. Playing that first game when you fight the what was it? It wasn't the Kraken. It was the Hydra. When you
Hydra,
fight the
yeah.
Hydra, all through that first level is like I had never experienced anything like that in the game. Like these games like are so cinematic. So yeah, that's number 3. Number 2 is going to be my favorite JRPG series. I do have a special place in my heart for JRPGs, but number 2, Final Fantasy. This is my favorite. I've played a lot of these. There's such a wide variety of. They're all RPGs, but just like if you want an MMO RPG, you can play 14, which I've heard is good, but I'm not really big on MMOs. But like, there's always something different. They keep, there are some familiar things in there, but they do keep trying to change things as they go. These are some of the best stories in gaming, I think. You've got Final Fantasy VI, which is my favorite one of them, has a phenomenal story, a phenomenal villain. Even though I find it a little bit overrated, you got Final Fantasy VII, which is a lot of people's like that's where they dip their toes into the JRPG system, and it gets them into all that. Final Fantasy X's, great. So yeah, that's my number 2, and then my number 1 is the Mass Effect series. And I'm doing 1, 2, and 3. I've never played Andromeda. I don't think I'll ever play Andromeda. I've heard too many bad things about it, and I just don't want to necessarily go. I don't know. I've heard too many bad things about it. But 1, 2, and 3, I think are phenomenal storytelling. They recently released the Legendary Edition of them, where it was all 3 of the original trilogy with all the DLC, all in one game. And I've been playing through that. I still haven't finished 3 again. I think part of me is because I just don't want it to end, because there's a lot of emotional moments towards the end. But this storytelling is phenomenal, and the great thing about it is it's so customizable. Like when I play Mass Effect, I'm playing my Shepard. When you play Mass Effect, you're playing your Shepard. All of the decisions that you make, you might make some of the same decisions, but it's very rare that somebody makes the exact same decisions in every single time, depending on their gameplay. So you really feel like you're playing through the movie and like in the game, I mean. And what I mean by that is like parts of these games feel like movies. Like there's a part towards the end of the first Mass Effect that feels like you're in an action movie. Especially 2 and 3 have really good, the actual mechanics of the game are really, really good. But really, it's the story. It's a very interesting story. There's like tons of lore. There's like an encyclopedia that you can just read through, like tons and tons of stuff. It's one of those lived-in stories that I really like. So yeah, so that's my favorite. That's my favorite games series.
All right. Okay. So I will go next. So my number 5. This may seem like a repeat, but no, you're hearing it correctly. My number 5 of all time is Soul Calibur. The Soul Calibur series, particularly numbers 2 and 6. Though special place in my heart for 1, and the original Soul Blade as well. To me, it's the best 3D fighter ever. Yes, Tekken heads, I'm including Tekken in that, and Tekken falls short to Soul Calibur. I'm very sorry. I've had more fun with friends. I've had more fun with non-friends playing Soul Calibur than I ever did with Tekken. I don't feel like I need to have a 50-hit combo in order to be able to win. I think I can just pick that thing up and just go with it, and if I want to kind of refine everything and be better at it, I can do that too. Soul Calibur, my number 5. My number 4 is the Metal Gear series, going all the way back to, and I finally got to play the MSX version later, but going all the way back to the NES version, which was kind of a crappy port, but still kind of a fun and interesting thing. Oh no, the truck have started to move is one of my favorite nonsensical lines in all of video gaming. But particularly Metal Gear Solid 3, the stealth action in this is top notch. You have a lot of games in and around that era. You have the Thief series. You have Splinter Cell that kind of are very similar in that it's more sneaking than it is straight up combat. But any time that you can like sneak around for about 30 minutes and then fight a man who is basically a tank and then win by just shooting 3 missiles into his face, I think that's a very cool juxtaposition of action and stealthing around. Very nice. Number 3, also mentioned here previously, is the Final Fantasy series. More so the earlier games. I have this theory that RPGs, unless you can invest in a large amount of time in them, don't really hit and when you're younger, you have that time. I think now, like in kind of in older days, I really don't get a chance to do that. So for me, those are going to be 1, 4, and 6, aka when I was growing up, 1, 2, and 3. 6 being my favorite RPG of all time. I will say 15 came out of nowhere and is actually one of my favorite Final Fantasy games because I thought they did a tremendous job on the characters in that. What starts out as a goofy premise to me turns into a world-sprawling, very emotional game that I think they've reached the height of their storytelling on, which, and to me, was a complete departure from some of their more super flash, no substance games. Number 2, The Legend of Zelda, holder of one of my favorite games of all time. For a long time, my favorite game of all time, the Ocarina of Time. Legend of Zelda is pitch perfect in almost every sense, unless you're playing on a Philips CDI, in which case I'm very sorry for you. I wish they had bought you a better video game system when you were growing up, or that your hipster ass, and if your hipster ass bought that now, fuck you, man. Just stop. Get to drink your pour over coffee and shut the fuck up. But no, Legend of Zelda always. It's what I love about it is that the character has never been voiced, even in Breath of the Wild when they voiced all the other characters, because it allows you to impart yourself onto that character. You don't have a voice there that kind of gets in the way of that. But going all the way back to the original Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, which is to me the biggest departure from the franchise, I still love that game. It's very different, but it's also, at the time, people saying it was very different. It was the second game in the series. So what can you do there? But you start getting into the meat, especially in the mid to late 90s, A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and then finally kind of ending with, well, not ending with Twilight Princess. Even Skyward Sword, which I will admit has faults, I still had fun playing that game. I think the sword combat in that game was fantastic. Finally, my number 1 series of all time, as basic bitch as it finally gets, is the Mario series. Super Mario Brothers, Mario 2, Mario 3, Mario World 2, which is Yoshi's Island. Do you count that? I do, but maybe you don't. That's entirely okay. And then you start getting into the great 3D platformers. Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxies 1 and 2, and then finally my favorite full stop game of all time, Super Mario Odyssey. What they have been able to do with such a simple premise over more than 30 years now has been fantastic. It is my favorite game series of all time because it is never not quality. Even when it dips a little bit, I will argue that I was disappointed by Sunshine. I still enjoy that game. I still wouldn't mind playing it right now. If I wasn't talking to you, you guys are here, I might have a Super Mario Sunshine and a GameCube controller in my hand. That's how good that series is. When it's not perfect, it's still one of the best things in the world. So that is my top 5 video game series of all time. Jody, I would like you to go next, sir.
All right. Well, I'm going to go back in time to around 1996, I think. The first time I popped this into my PlayStation 1, I saw the opening cinematic, and it literally brought tears of happiness. I couldn't believe that I was basically witnessing the evolution of consoles and of video games at the same time. And that's when I put in Soul Blade for the first time. So Soul Calibur is my number 5, starting with Soul Blade. Soul Blade, that first game has so much in it. They implemented it again later in other versions of the game, but there was an adventure mode that you can unlock weapons and different, clothes and all that stuff, and they had not been doing that with fighting games before then, I don't think. So my favorite is Soul Blade and Soul Calibur 2, although we play 1 a lot here, but Soul Calibur is my number 5. I'm not going to go into it much more because we all 3 of us so far have named that. My 4th is SmackDown vs. Raw, starting with Here Comes the Pain on the PS2. That's probably one of the best wrestling series the WWE ever put out. I think that my favorite out of those would probably be 2008 and 2013. 2008, they, for one, you had an ECW roster, so you had the Sandman, Sabu, and you never got those guys again. Not officially in those games. Also, first showing of CM Punk on a roster in a WWE game as well. So many hours of enjoyment, mainly through, I live vicariously through the creator wrestler mode. So many hours, so many hours. The next one is number 3 for me is Mega Man, mainly because I grew up on Mega Man. Mega Man came out in like 87 or something like that, 86, 87. Mega Man 2 is my favorite Mega Man, and I'm specifically talking about Mega Man on the NES. I'm not talking about the Mega Man X series, which is its own thing, I think, specifically. Mega Man, the OG series on the NES, which really, I think, hits its high water mark at 3. After that, it kind of like, it starts getting a lot samey, but 2 is my favorite Mega Man game and probably my favorite platformer of all time. The second franchise is Castlevania. Again, I will say that my favorite Castlevania is Castlevania 1 on the Nintendo, but I did love what they did with it on the PS1 with Symphony of the Night, and all the iterations of Aria of Sorrow and all the other platforms it was on. But the original Nintendo Castlevania is my favorite Castlevania game. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time on my number 1, which is Resident Evil. I played the first one soon after it came out on the PlayStation 1. It brought survival horror into existence pretty much. At least for the mainstream audience, I would say. You had puzzles, you had tank controls, you had characters. My favorite Resident Evil game is Resident Evil 2 on the PS1 because Resident Evil 2 came with 2 discs. One was Leon Kennedy and the other one was Claire Redfield. And you could start the game with either one of those discs, and then when you finish the game, when you started a second playthrough, you put the other disc in, and it started a different scenario with the second character. And you could keep doing that quite a few times, and you would even get 3 or 4 different scenarios out of the gameplay. So lots and lots of gameplay, unlockable characters, unlockable weapons, great story. Resident Evil 2 and 4 are probably Resident Evil 2 is my favorite. Resident Evil 4 is probably the next one in that. So Resident Evil is my number 1.
Ethan, you are the capstone, sir. Bring it home.
As much as I would love to have Soul Calibur as my number 5, like the rest of you, it is actually going to go to the Legend of Zelda series. I absolutely loved playing Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. All of those are very much dear to me. A good majority of my top 5 come from just enjoying video games with my older brother. Shout out to you, Skylar. So yeah, he definitely introduced me to Legend of Zelda originally with Wind Waker, and I was absolutely blown away with it, and the love just kind of kept going from there. My number 4 is going to be the Batman Arkham Trilogy series. To be able to play Batman throughout Arkham Asylum, through Arkham City, facing down with iconic villains like the Joker, Clayface, Bane, Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, just being able to put myself into Gotham City and just go through the motions of being Batman. I very much enjoy it. My top 3 are very solid in their placements. Number 3 being Kingdom Hearts. Again, my brother introduced this series to me, and it's swords with Disney titles. Who doesn't want to throw pumpkins at characters from Nightmare Before Christmas? Who doesn't want to run through the streets of Baghdad with Aladdin? Who doesn't want to become a lion with Simba? And like with everything with Sword, Donald, Goofy, King Mickey, it's very entrapping. It became a thing that I very much love to this day. Number 2 is going to be God of War. Being able to play as Kratos, like Brady mentioned before, just tearing through the Greek pantheon, going through Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, Athena, all of them, and like Brady said, with the character development that we see with Kratos in the newest installment with his son Atreus, I love everything from the combat to the story to the character interactions. How we see Kratos go from this grizzled angry man to a father that's trying to learn to become one and to treat his son. My number one pick is going to be the mainline Pokemon series. Like I've stated before, Pokemon Soul Silver was the very first game I've purchased myself. It's become a series that I hold to myself. I get every single game whenever it releases on the day of. I enjoy every single story that I play with. I enjoy everything about it. It is going to be one series that I always play.
All right, there you go. Like last time, as everybody was talking on, I added little notes to everybody. Ethan added a note to mine. With Brady's list, I've called him Character Man because I think you are drawn to strong character. Like I look at Soul Calibur, and any fighter is based the draw is the characters as far as that goes. And I think the Soul Calibur series is very strong, defined, very good characters in it. God of War, more so with you talking about Kratos, was about again the character and what this character has become. Final Fantasy, and when you mentioned, because Final Fantasy VI is also my favorite of the Final Fantasy series, that is the best realized ensemble cast, I think, in all of video gaming.
Oh, yeah.
All of video gaming. With the exception of the bonus characters, I think everybody in there is a fleshed out character with a backstory and a arc that you see from beginning, like before the beginnings of the game all the way to the end.
Yeah.
I think it's the characters that make that game. And finally, Mass Effect, like you said, your shepherd's yours. Somebody else's shepherd is theirs. It is that connection to that character that kind of brings it in. So I have you down as the character man. Jody, I have him as survivor man, not just because of Resident Evil and survival horror, but just Castlevania is one of the hardest games of all time.
Yeah.
The original Mega Man, one of the hardest.
Yeah.
That trilogy, that first three, they actually get, in my opinion, progressively easier, but those are difficult games.
Yeah.
So like these are games you don't play, you survive them. SmackDown versus Raw Survivor Series. That's all I can really say about that, but it kind of works out there. And then finally, Soul Calibur. What do? You fight to survive.
Yes.
The soul still burns. For Ethan, I have Storyman. With yours, with Brady again, to me, it was like he was focusing more on the characters and that journey. For you, it felt like the overall, just the journey itself and how you, and just experiencing those points in time. That's where I kind of got that. Specifically with Pokemon, because I think a lot, especially along with The Legend of Zelda, your Link is you. Same way in Pokemon, your Red is the name of the character, but Red is a blank face. It's you. You're the one walking up. You're the one going in the tall grass. You're the one who's fighting for badges at gyms. So I think for you, it's more along story points on the thing. Now Ethan took the pen away from me violently. He stabbed me in the throat. And I've just now healed from it. I heal quick. He's like Wolverine. I'm like a Mississippi Wolverine. I need artwork of that. Someone, please.
Mississippi Wolverine.
I need Mississippi Wolverine. It's like Jean Grey shorts. Ethan, what you wrote down? Classical man. Why classical man?
Everyone's at least played a Mario game in their life. Legend of Zelda. They've heard of Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid, Soul Calibur. These are all classic game titles that everyone's at least heard.
They are classic franchises.
I'd have to agree.
At one point in their life. And so
There you go. All right, so I hate to do this, and I hate to do this to the person, but not to the series. But I'm already using my bullet. Fuck Kingdom Hearts. Fuck. No.
Wait. I was going to use it on that series.
No,
too late.
You don't have
It's
to.
too late.
No. Like again. And Kingdom Hearts begins with Sora and Riku and the other guy in the Destiny Islands.
Destiny.
Yes.
Okay, and that's where my understanding of that game stops.
On the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And then
10 years later, you
Yeah.
finally get.
Well,
But for me,
yeah.
everything you mentioned about when you mentioned about going to Agrabah and being in Aladdin, and you go to, and you're going to Pride Rock, and you're aligned with alongside Simba and all those things. That was the Disney side of those games. The Square side of those games are an indecipherable Rubik's Cube filled with spikes and
I can
They-
definitely understand how Kingdom Hearts is very person specific when putting them on a top 5 list.
Right.
Yeah.
Sephiroth.
I stopped playing at Kingdom Hearts 2.
Same.
Yes.
And I really enjoy both of those games.
Yeah.
I have used my bullet for Kingdom Hearts, the shine down of video games.
God damn.
I had to do it.
Ethan, he did it, not me.
Yeah, I
He
know.
Did it,
I
not
did
me.
it.
Yeah.
I did
It's
it.
all him.
I take full responsibility and or credit for it, whichever one you want to go with that. But yeah, for me, Kingdom Hearts is too unassailable to be enjoyable.
It really got like I feel like it did lose the plot, but like a lot of the mechanics, I like the action RPG of it. Some of the platforming in those first couple of games aren't great, but like I like the first 2 games.
Did they get away from that and they made it more just flat, plain? Like
I think in 1 it had a lot of platforming, and then in 2 they lessened it. I cannot say anything after.
They still have that balance of platform with planes, especially with 3.
I think they just got better at the controls because that was PlayStation 1 era. So they
a quick reference. Again, I mentioned Final Fantasy 15. It's actually legitimately it's one of my favorite Final Fantasies of all time. I put it above 7. I don't put it above 4 and 6. I think it's my third favorite all time. Mm-hmm. I think the story is fantastic, but there is a bonus dungeon. It's called the Pitios dungeon. I think it's Pitios. You go into the dungeon, and your boy band crew that you've been with the entire game they just stop and they just let you go in alone. They don't say anything. They don't say, like you'll take. No, they just stop. So there's this immediate feeling of dread, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm down. Like maybe this is gonna be like a horror section. Like okay, like it's personal horror and stuff like that. And then you get in there, and it's a fucking platforming dungeon.
Oh,
with those controls.
Oh,
no.
Yes, Square is not good at making platformer anything.
There are some cool. There's one very cool set piece in that dungeon that I dig, but those controls do not allow for a platforming anything. I was really no, like don't skip it. I actually ask everyone, experience Pitios so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's just a little thing I just want to bring up there.
Yeah.
Square Enix and platformers don't make sense.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
They tried to make Balan Wonder World, and that
no,
was
they made it, and that's all we have to say about that.
They tried.
No,
that's all I'm going to give
It was
them.
produced. It was sold for $60. And it is like the Taka of Super Mario Odyssey. It is not Dobra. It is not behind the bottom shelf, but it is not top shelf.
It is the shelf. It is the shelf.
It's the shelf. It is. There we go, gentlemen. Before I completely devour all the time on this one, does anybody have any thoughts, opinions, magic bullets they want to fire away at?
So I'm gonna have something that's gonna be a little bit controversial.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay.
So for me personally, I played the first one. I played the second one. I did not like the second one. I did not have the platform that some of the other ones got released on much later. I'm gonna pop Legend of Zelda.
You are bulleting the Legend of Zelda.
Wow.
Yeah.
No one used it as their one. So
Yeah.
the magic bullet is being used on the Legend of Zelda.
I'm removing
Oh, man.
3 off of the board at one
The
time.
Legend of Zelda will not appear on our top 5 list due to Jody Kite.
Yep.
If you have any questions or comments for Jody Kite, please email travelersontheomnibus at gmail.com with the specific subject, fuck you, Jody.
Do you have a specific reason besides just not being able to play them?
I didn't have an N64, and I think that at the time, I think it was overhyped for me. So I never played Ocarina of Time. I never played Majora's Mask.
Like I said, I'm not super hurt by that because I really like Legend of Zelda, but I don't. When I was working through my criteria, like I listed out a whole bunch of things and then was like, okay, what are of these series that I like? What are the ones that I've played a bunch of? Okay. And then I went, okay, well, what is, if the next game is coming out, what is a game that, and this one was kind of in there, but even then I was like, I don't rush usually to a Legend of Zelda. Like I don't like when Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, I'll eventually get around to playing it. And I will enjoy it and I will love it while I'm playing it, but I'm not like, oh my god, they showed a frame from Breath of the Wild 2. Have y'all seen this, guys?
You don't see yourself the day of it releasing and getting it.
So
because this didn't hurt you. This mortally wounded me. My heart's blood is dripping out of my body right now. But I will say this.
Jay.
I will say this. the hype for Breath of the Wild is exceptional. But the people who love this game don't love it as, oh, this is the greatest video game of all time. They love it in the way that this is the greatest piece of media ever created. That I cannot agree with.
Yeah,
because I've had to replace too many swords.
Yes.
I've just had to do that over.
It
and
would
over
be
again.
probably a perfect game if it didn't have that.
Yeah, I'm glad you waited till I used my bullet to use your bullet on, like, legitimately.
That was very strategic.
Ocarina of Time is, for the longest time until Mario Odyssey, Ocarina of Time was my favorite game of all time. It is still, like, I will dig up my N64 from the sea because it went out to sea with Katrina. But if I can get a chance to play Ocarina of Time, I will sit down and play Ocarina of Time.
I do need to go back and play the games I didn't get to play, but I figured, like, main reason is I just, didn't really get to play most of those games, and another reason is I got 3 for 1 on that, so.
Oh, you wanted a 3-for-1 kill count. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. All right, so Ethan is going to use his bullet to take out all of Jody's picks using
I choose Jody.
I choose Jody.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, well, all right, guys, it's been fun.
Right.
Okay.
7 days, Jody.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus.
All right, so other more discussion. We've done a lot about pulling pieces out. What pieces are definitely going on this list?
I feel like with our list, Soul Calibur probably has
Cal's
to be.
gotta be on
Calibur
there.
has to be on
But now
there,
here's
yeah.
the thing. It can't be higher than 5, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like 5, 5, 5, and then just not on
Yeah.
Ethan's list.
Yeah.
Glad you didn't bow to peer pressure, Ethan.
In all seriousness, I will use a bullet.
Oh, he's using.
He's going to kill
Okay.
Soul Calibur.
Yeah, he's probably going to kill Soul Calibur.
Are you doing it?
No,
Okay.
I have to shoot Metal Gear.
Oh,
Metal
Yeah.
Gear.
Okay.
Interesting.
It's one of those games that I've had the least experience playing.
Okay.
I'm not the biggest fan of stealth aspects, stealth missions.
I feel the same way.
I don't really enjoy that aspect of many video games.
Okay.
So it never really clicks with me.
I respect Metal Gear much more than I like Metal Gear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like the meta-ness a lot of the games, the things that they do in the game. But like stealth games, I'm not good at, and I'm not real big on. I would probably like them better now, but like growing up, I was just like, no, I just want to run and shoot something.
because the point's made out there. When you say you're not good at stealth games, what games have you played in the stealth genre?
I played a little bit of Metal Gear. I played like Thief.
I enjoyed
There's probably something else in there, but like there's not. A lot.
Splinter Cell was really good. I liked Splinter Cell.
Splinter Cell. I played that one. I'm not.
I guess you could put Assassin's
Like, it's just not
Creed
something
in,
that I
the stealth
enjoy.
aspect.
No, I would put a.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the game.
Yeah.
It's more part of the.
Now I do.
toolbox
I
of
have
the
played
game.
Assassin's Creed, and I do like those. That was a consideration that I had, but I just don't play those.
I will say this: there was
Recently.
for me, it was between Thief and Metal Gear
Mm-hmm.
because I think Thief 1 and 2 are stronger than almost every other game in the Metal Gear series, with the exception of Solid 3.
Mm-hmm.
Solid 3, I would say that game needs to be played by anyone who is a video gamer to say, like, okay, I know what the genres are like. I'm sad that now 2 of my series have been murdered off the list, but that is what happens when you have nuclear bullets flying.
We're
Yeah,
talking about
true.
2 of my series that also got shot.
One
was a three
Shut
fair.
up!
You shot one of them.
I took credit for it. So yeah, I did. What you gonna do about it?
I shot yours then.
Okay. Oh, so that was just retaliatory.
No.
So I'm the only one with a bullet in the chamber,
Yeah,
right?
You got a bullet in the chamber.
Very true.
You don't have to fire it. You can stow it. We can talk a little bit more. So it doesn't look like Soul Calibur is going to die because it's on Brady's list.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's going to be committing Soul Calibur seppuku.
No,
So can we lock Soul Calibur in at 5, or do we want to push it up the chart a little bit?
I think we can.
I would say we could bump it up a little bit.
Bump it up a little bit. So
It's a
north
game-
of 5.
But just
but
put an
maybe not
asterisk
for
by
1.
it to saying that it's in the top 5
Okay,
for sure.
So SoCal is
In
has
the
made it
top
to
5.
has made it to the top 5.
It's in the top
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
We'll figure out its position later.
Okay.
I'd like to vote for Final Fantasy to be in the top 5.
I think that's.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Is that 3 of the? No,
It's 2
It's
and
2 and 3.
It's another
2 and
cross-
3.
it's my 3 and Brady's 2.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was
okay, so-
very close to being in my list anyway.
All right, so Final
I
Fantasy
am
is
a
on
big
there.
fan of
right.
Final
Yeah, there
Fantasy.
were.
Yeah.
I was seriously considering other RPGs, but that's the one that I played the most of, and
I'm going to appeal to rhetoric. I'm gonna get up. Hi, I'm a fine Southern gentleman, and I'm running for your state senate, and I want to say that if Mario is not on our top 5, I think we are being disingenuous.
the fact that
It doesn't
that
have
Legend
to be
of Zelda is
it doesn't have to be the top, even though it is my number 1. I think
Yeah.
how significant. Like honestly, without a Mario series, what is the video game series that brings back the American market?
yeah.
That is true.
Not to mention Mario is like what kickstarts a good portion of our list. Like Mario is like the lead video game title for Nintendo when they released.
If we don't get a Nintendo Entertainment System, Mega Man's not on this
That's
list.
true.
Castlevania's
That's
not
true.
on this list. Final Fantasy, I don't think is on the list. I think similarly, a game that we didn't mention on here, Dragon Warrior,
And Dragon Quest. Yeah.
Dragon Quest, and specifically again for the Western market,
Dragon Warrior.
Dragon Warrior,
Yeah.
isn't on the like
1 and
it
2,
doesn't
yeah.
no one even considers it, at least on the
Right.
Western side of things.
Right.
I'd like to. Again, it is my choice. I would rather. I chose it as my number 1. But
I vote for Mario to be in
Yeah.
the
I'm fine
top
with Mario. Mario. If we're not if Legend of Zelda is Mario or Legend of Zelda needs to be on there, one or the other.
I will make a motion
Okay.
for God of War.
Motion
to be added.
That's honestly, I would also agree with that. I think of the modern series, I think it is the most impactful. I think specifically God of War, or which I think is what God of War 4 as
Yes.
well.
The PS4 title.
That game hit hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was not it's a mature game, but the first 3 are kind of mature in that it's kind of the prurient interest. It's like, oh, I'm ripping things apart and like titties and sex and all this stuff.
The
God of War 4 is mature in how it handles its characters and storytelling. It's a game that I feel you have to be older to appreciate it.
You have to have played the earlier titles in order to appreciate what it.
I'd
what it's
argue
become.
you don't, with the exception of one scene. And I'm not going to spoil that scene because it is so much recent.
Yeah,
But I think the storytelling on that is for an older, more considering audience.
I think that you get so much more out of it if you've played at the very least. Well, to understand where Kratos is in 3, you probably need to play 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like I told my son is, I don't know if he's really playing too much with it, but he's at least downloaded the PlayStation 4 for the newer version of the newer God of War, and is playing a little bit through it. He's more of like he plays like Dark Souls and all that. So like but like I told him, like I have like the God of War collection where it's 1, 2, and 3 and both of the PSP games, but I only have it for PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish I could give that to you so you could play through all of those to really get that character development. Like to see the growth of Kratos. I think you still get a lot from that newer game without playing those, but like you get so much more.
I think for me, so here's another bad email getter for us. I don't like Viking stuff. Typically, I don't like Viking stuff. I think the interest in it, I think is too much for me. It's one of those things that's like, oh, have you seen this thing about like the Thor, when Thor started to become a comedy and more fun, when it was more connected to like the Valhalla myths and stuff like that, even though that was tacitly, it really didn't get with me. I don't typically like Viking stuff.
Yeah.
I also didn't play. I have the God of War collection because it's one of those game collections that I feel if you didn't get them individually, you should eventually get them all because of how impactful God of War has been to all of video gaming. But it was not something that really kind of resonated with me. This God of War knocks it out of the park. God of War 4 knocks it completely out of the park. I wish I could right now pull the name of the actor who plays Kratos in this. His voice,
The newer guy, I can't remember his name.
is so good because it's an older man. It's not a withered man, but a man who's seen some shit and has done some shit and wants to
He's
maybe
veteran.
make some atonement for it and has actual real responsibilities to like himself and to his family, like rather than having his entire family be dead. Like he has something to live for.
Well, yeah, in those earlier games, Kratos is driven by rage and vengeance, and that is it.
Isn't his skin white because that's the ashes
It's
of
the
his
ashes
family?
of his family.
Yeah,
Yes.
that for me.
Spoilers
that
for a super old game.
Yeah, for the first
Right.
game in the series. So again, but it was a series that wasn't really I'm attached to. It's a theme that I'm actually kind of repellent to, and knocked it out of the fucking park.
Yeah.
Absolutely knocked it out of the fucking park. So. Yeah, does anyone have any other objections? I think God of War should be on the.
I'm not going to say I have any objections. I will say that I've never played any of them. But that's just that's how I feel about it.
Do we want to hold that?
I think we should, because we're going to have like Mass Effect, and for me, Mass Effect and Resident Evil are really high up there.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because Resident Evil, if it's not for Resident Evil survival horror, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I will say this. Had it not been a number one, it would have been a 50-50 shot on either Kingdom Hearts or Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically for 3.
Mm-hmm.
That if we want to talk about like series that ended poorly in just all media.
Right.
Think of like, again, I don't believe this, but the general consensus, Game of Thrones ended super poorly, extremely poorly, to the point where it alienated its place in like the pantheon of pop culture,
Right.
Things like that. The initial Mass Effect 3, when Brady was talking about, again, your choices matter and it makes you different and all that, that is absolutely correct until you get to the ultimate point in
Right.
Mass Effect, and
Yes.
then it's down to 3 choices.
Right.
And if you completely chose oppositely, all the way in one direction, you could still make the 100% opposite choice to do something else. I think it was very, I've used this term before, ham-fisted. I think it was very like, that is not how I want to see a series
Right.
end.
Yeah.
And then Andromeda happened, and dear God, they don't care about the quality of the product.
Yeah.
Yeah, by then they definitely didn't. Yeah, in 3 there are a lot of missteps, and a lot of that comes from we want to have all these plot points, but there's a chance that all of these characters might be dead, so we have to come up with alternate versions of what would happen. And some of that's a little clunky, but when it works. And there are some phenomenal emotional moments even in Mass Effect 3. The ending is not that great, but you still have, really big important moments, and even like just times with your teammates. Like one of the most celebrated things, and this is something that I haven't even gotten to yet, is the Citadel DLC, because when they released the Citadel DLC, my Xbox save file messed up, so I lost all of it. Ooh. So I paid for the Citadel DLC and never actually played it.
You want to use your own bullet on Mass Effect just for it glitching on you?
No.
Don't ever glitch on me
That's
again.
how much I. That's how much I
you care.
love
No,
this.
I get it.
This like
Right.
I think of that in the same way I think of Fallout 3. In that, again, this is an unpopular opinion. I prefer Fallout 3 to Fallout New Vegas. I think it's Fallout New Vegas is overly appreciated. I don't think the story is as good as people.
Oh no,
love it.
I agree 100% with you.
But I will say, for Fallout 3, the ending of that game is a wet fart, because fuck it, spoilers for a game that came out in early
2008.
2000s.
Yeah.
At the end, you have to make a choice. Either you go in to a super irradiated room and push a code to save all of mankind, or you send someone else to go in there and push a button to save mankind, or you put the forced evolutionary virus in there and turn everyone into super mutants. The problem with that ending is that you have a companion. You have a slot for one companion, and one of those companions can be completely immune to radioactivity, or one literally gets energized by having radioactivity
Yes.
going through them. They can be there. It's like, it makes no sense. It's like, hey man, could you go in there and hit these 3 buttons? And they're like, no, this is this course of destiny is going straight through a river, and that river ends in your harbor, or like, what? No one has to die.
But the counterpoint is with the Brotherhood of Steel DLC, the game doesn't end.
Yeah, the game
they
doesn't
fixed
end there
that.
because you can then send the dude in there and go that. But you have to change the ending.
Yeah.
Like they hadn't intended it. Like that's always annoyed me with Fallout 3.
And the reason why I didn't even Fallout 3 and 4, I don't really consider. That's just 2 games, and I know there was 2 games before that, but they were not. They were completely different isometric, strategy games.
No. So, I will say this: I would like to see Resident Evil on the list because of Mila Jovovich, but also
I would agree.
Honestly, if I had the favorite games of all time, like maybe not top 5, but definitely top 10, Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
A lot of
4 is great.
One is good, and it's good at heightening that tension with those tank controls because it's like you can't just be a superhero like moving around doing everything. When they got to 4, they then freed up your movement, and it's still fucking terrifying.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think 4 is the scariest one, to be honest with you.
Resident Evil's another one of those that I appreciate more than I actually like.
Yeah.
Because I'm not survival horror is not a genre that I like,
Right.
and it's not a genre that I'm good at.
You recognize perhaps its greatness and its influence, but it's not your cup of tea.
I remember watching a friend of mine play Resident Evil 2 and really enjoying that, but like myself, I just don't like those games. Like I played a little bit here and there, and like I just don't like this. And I have seriously considered like playing Resident Evil Village because there's something about that game that I think it's more of the story that interests me and really the characters in that.
Well, 7 and 8 both. Like 7 brought it back in a way that I think. And first of all, I love. So here it's called Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, and in Japan it's called Biohazard 7 because that's what the name of the series.
Right.
Resident Evil.
Biohazard.
And I think that was novel
Yeah,
that they
that's
kind
cool.
of went through with that approach with it.
I have a grudge with both 7 and 8, and don't get me wrong, I recognize these as being phenomenal games. I have a grudge because the main character is named Ethan, and I don't like hearing my name being said like that while I'm running through a house in 7 and having a deranged old man chase me. I don't like the fact. I
The
don't
baby, though.
like it at all. I don't know.
That was 8.
That was an 8.
Oh my god.
Nightmare fuel.
That is honestly, like the first section you go through is the Madame Dimitrescu, which honestly feels like Castlevania Resident Evil.
Yeah.
The next section is just the weird fucking creepy dollhouse, and then you have to go into the bowels of this, and it's like, oh, there's a crib, that's kind of cool, and then all of a sudden this like 8-foot fucking baby who can swallow you whole just shows up. Spoilers for Resident Evil 8.
I have not finished 7 yet, and I do not want to play 8.
No, the processing on the sound of that baby.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Go fuck spoilers. Go on YouTube right now
just
and look
watch
up
it.
anybody dealing with
Just
that shit.
watch it.
For
Yeah.
anyone else named Ethan, be prepared. It's
Are
terrible.
you are you constipated? Get on your toilet
You won't
right
be
now.
for long.
Fire up YouTube Resident Evil 8 baby chase.
Yeah. See, you're talking me out of it, to be honest.
You will be 20 pounds lighter.
Yes, you will.
Ugh.
So I think just for like the sheer weight loss faction of Resident Evil, I think we should get Resident Evil on this list.
I think,
does anyone
again,
disagree?
I could agree with
I think again the reason why I brought Resident Evil up in the same mention as the other game to get it on the list is because if it's not for Resident Evil, survival horror is not really a genre. I don't think personally.
It is the hallmark of the genre. Like you have Alone in the Dark before it, but I think it was popular.
And you have Silent Hill almost around the same time, but Silent Hill
a year after.
Yeah.
It was a year after.
and you don't have Silent Hill 2 until the next console.
Which is to me is the perfect refinement of the survival.
Silent Hill
horror genre.
2 is the best Silent Hill game.
I would argue the best survival horror game of all time. But that is
What, Silent Hill 2?
Silent Hill 2.
Yeah, it's good. It's real good.
That is a argument / debate for another time.
Yes.
I'm not excited about Resident Evil being on the list, but I won't fight it.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about God of War, and I've never played any of them.
That's fair enough.
So do we pass the motion of God of War being
I think honestly for what God of War represents, I think it needs to be on the list.
Yeah,
unless there is some compelling argument that can be shown to me right now.
Right.
that got like as far as stuff on this list, as far as its impact on things.
Yeah.
I throw that to the floor.
I'd have to
Otherwise, I
say
think God of
impact
War's
for sure. And the only thing I would compare it to, that anything that's left as far as the kind of game it is, as far as the action orientation with the game, would be the Batman game. It just similar in how much action there is.
What,
that
the
would
combo fighting,
the combo fighting
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That would be the only thing I would compare it to as far as actual gameplay goes.
Had God of War not had so much of an impact throughout from the very first installment on the PS1, or was it PS2?
His PS1.
FPS
On the
2.
PS1.
No, PS2.
No, PS2.
God of War
Yeah,
was on
PS2.
PS2.
Yeah, sorry.
From
Yeah,
the PS2 all
duh.
the way up to the upcoming God of War Ragnarok game. It would be a 50-50 between Batman and God of War. But
And again, Batman comes after God of War. Does
Right.
Batman? The question: does Batman Arkham trilogy, the Arkham trilogy, happen without God of War having existed first? Maybe, but I don't
think
know.
they
if
do
it-
different enough things because there is like the whole stealth that aspect of that, and that is not in any of the
That is-
God
I
of War
think there were
games.
so many, even though I didn't play God of War, you had Dante's Inferno, which is very similar to God of War as
Yeah.
well on the PS3.
There were a lot of clones that came from God of War. The Arkham trilogy, like with those, the first two the first two games are like really good, and then like you have like Origins, and then you have Arkham Knight, and those are okay. That's my thoughts of that.
I'm doing.
I'll be honest. So before we go too much further, our audience or whatever it is, whatever he is, I don't
passenger.
shit.
Our passenger, also known, as
he raised his hand and showed, and I'm sorry we were talking and I saw it and then I forgot. I apologize.
You weren't even in my eyesight. I didn't know this happened. Dylan, get your ass over here. So, Dylan,
you said you were like you
episode of
had
the show.
something that you wanted to.
Did you have something you wanted to say, sir? We're bringing you up.
Did
to
I?
I don't remember raising my hand or anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then
Yeah, that's
my brain too.
That's his excuse for throwing a fucking monkey wrench into this entire show. That's
Yeah,
how it
yeah,
works.
yeah.
There we go. All right, gentlemen, we've got the pool.
We've got the pool.
Soul Calibur, Final Fantasy, Mario, Resident Evil, and God of War. How are we ranking this?
We need to look at impact on the franchises as a whole. So
I'm gonna say right now, because it's what I want, but Mario to me has to be in the top 3.
The two most influential games on there, I would argue, are Final Fantasy and Mario.
I would have to say the same. I would have to say those need to be in the top 2.
So we're saying top 2.
Well, I mean,
Yeah. Again, no,
If we're going
the
by,
statement
like,
is made.
influence, quality of games, like it's.
I have to be honest, I would place Mario at 1. Just because of, without the original Super Mario Bros., you would not have video games today. In my personal opinion.
I think that's a little far afield. I think you would not have video games the way we have them.
Yeah.
today.
Yes.
And particularly in the Western market.
let's start
Yeah.
with what we think number 5 is. Like, what do we think number 5? What's the bottom?
Honestly, I can't put with this pool. I cannot put Soul Calibur above anybody else in this pool.
Yeah.
I literally can't.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, shout out to all of the fans of Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, hell, Eternal Champions,
Marvel versus Capcom.
Cardinal Sin.
Alien Challenge,
Super Smash Brothers.
Yes, we didn't even mention that
No.
at all.
No, we didn't.
And that is one of the biggest fighting games
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
But for all of the
Controversial opinion: Super Smash Brothers is a party game, and fuck anybody who says otherwise.
I can't agree with that. But at the same time,
Mario Party Smash.
Super Smash Brothers is best on any of the fucking levels with items and all of this dumb shit. I have never had more fun with a group of people than when we're playing Smash Brothers like that. Not when it is on a flat level, no items, and everybody is talking really technical about this party game.
1 versus 1.
so
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah.
4 people.
Yeah.
4 people. Fuck you.
4 people, all items.
4 people, fuck you.
8 people. The 8. The when,
Oh, yeah, Brawl-
it is 8 people now.
Melee was the one that I played
Yeah,
the most
that was the
of
one too,
like
yeah.
that.
Soul Calibur, number 5 in our hearts, number 5 all time. All right.
Hey, just be happy a fighting game made it, everybody.
Okay, if we're holding to Mario and Final
Ethan, you have to
Fantasy-
say something controversial so we all get hate mail.
Controversial?
Yes.
Hold that thought. Come up with something that's really good and controversial, not just controversial.
Yeah.
'Cause you could just say some outlandish shit and then be like, yeah, whatever. Get something good and controversial. Hold that thought. We've got 20% of the list down.
Oh, shit.
All
yeah.
right. If we are holding to the fact that Mario and Final Fantasy are 1-2-2-1, God of War and Resident Evil, what's 3? What's 4?
This is completely personal preference. I place God of War above Resident Evil.
That's cool. I place Resident Evil above God of War.
I also have to place Resident Evil over God of War for the statement I made about never playing God of War and
Yes.
also the impact.
These both super powered two genres that had some things to begin with. Wait a minute, our audience is like doing sign language. What
Oh, you know, he's counting. He's keeping track of.
He's calling me a shit boy. Bob Shinedown, I should have known you should have done that. There you go. He just dabbed.
He did.
That was amazing.
air
Yeah,
dabbed.
that's exactly
Air
what
dabbed.
happened.
There you
Even
go.
more impressive.
There you go.
My biases say God of War over Resident Evil. I don't know.
Well,
It's
Now we've got to fight one another.
Yeah.
Okay. You get where's they have all the Nerf guns over there. Shit. Yeah. Like the good Nerf guns, the battery powered multi dart fucking death machines.
Okay.
So okay, no go.
let me make a counterpoint. So without Resident Evil, again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record here. Do we really have survival horror? If we do, probably nowhere near where it is. If we don't have God of War, do we still have action games in that sort of vein?
See, I would agree that these games don't originate their genres. Like I would argue that stuff like on a 2D plane, like early back, Double Dragon, Renegade, things like that, where you're just going around beating up a bunch of guys.
Right.
Maybe some combo fighting is involved, particularly in the NES version,
Right.
where you start picking up new moves as you're going
Right.
along. I don't think these originate. I think they popularize, and I think they innovate a great deal.
On impact, which one do you think has a bigger impact on the scope of gaming?
See, I have it sounds catty. It sounds very catty, but I cannot think of a miserable God of War game, but I can imagine Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6. I'm gonna say this right now. I'm not changing my vote. I like Resident Evil more.
No.
But again, I can't think of a God of War game in the main series that was like, this is bad to play. Resident Evil 6 is a formerly horror game that went straight action with some like John Carpenter The Thing set pieces.
Yeah.
I hate to do that, but for me,
I get that. I mean, like they've had their non-linear games also. Most of them were not good.
Like I don't consider like Resident Evil Survivor or things like that. I don't consider those. Like for me, if you're talking in the main
Right, in the main
that we're
line.
discussing,
Yeah.
for me, the fact that Resident Evil 6 exists and is as bad as it is, I think that edges for God of War.
I would have to also say 5 wasn't very good either in that vein.
I liked 5. I did like 5, but that's the step. And really, honestly, I'll say Resident Evil 4 is the step towards 5 and 6, where that got more action oriented, but you still had moments of pure like horror and terror in those.
Yeah, they
things.
took the wrong lessons from 4 and
yeah.
made 5 and 6.
The
they
fact
made
that they
5 and
stuck
6.
you with a secondary character that kept using all of your health if you didn't have a second person playing it was really obnoxious too.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
God of War 4 has a supporting character that, while annoying on occasion, which all supporting characters
Yes.
typically are, he's integral to the plot in a way that it was written in very well.
Yeah.
So on that,
Yeah.
do we agree?
I'd have to say
Then-
Resident Evil goes at number 4 and God of War goes at number 3. All right.
Locked in.
We're down to our top 2 of Mario and Final Fantasy.
Mario and Final Fantasy. Now, I've opened the door.
All right. Well,
Does Hotel Mario on the Philips CDI disqualify Mario from being number
does
one?
Final Fantasy Tactics give Final Fantasy advantage?
Do we consider those mainline games? I don't.
Well, it's part of a franchise, though, and that's what we're talking about.
Series is one thing, franchise is another thing.
Okay.
When I think of Mario, just the name Mario, I think of like the main Super Mario Brothers titles, Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, 3. 3D,
They would be
3D Land, 3D World.
Platformers is really when Mario, or if you would say Mario, that's what I would consider.
Hell, going back to the original Mario Brothers, where they're literally jumping around on platforms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have an overachieving plumber and a company that was making their last game, which is why it was called Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Fighting it out for the top two.
That's the thing. Like,
I think that's been debunked.
Oh, yeah.
I think they were initially going to call it Fighting Fantasy,
Oh.
and there was a trademark in America from TSR that would not allow that.
Okay, so the underdog story.
There is an underdog story for Square there.
Definitely underdog story.
Because before Final Fantasy, it was Ridge Racer and 3D World Runner.
how do you compare these two when it comes to like impact? Because they both had like outrageous impact.
Here's why I put Mario over Final Fantasy in this regard, and this is going to be a slight meander. So, in the United States, I would argue that amongst the Mount Rushmore of video gaming, you're going to have Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yes.
Not just for Mario, but also for Zelda, for Donkey Kong, for all these other things. In Japan, I don't think appears like he's not the main face. The main face is a man by the name of Yuji Ori. Yuji Ori created from Wizardry and from the Ultima series. He combined the two and put it on a console and called it Dragon Quest, which would then become Dragon Warrior over here. For many people, and this is one where I absolutely, if anybody listening to the show is listening right now, please give me feedback on this. And if I'm wrong, if I'm right, let me know. Yuji Ori is the father of Japanese video gaming off of Dragon Quest. Final Fantasy was not the first RPG. Final Fantasy VII is the one that I think opens the floodgate completely into the West. But if we're talking about originator, Final Fantasy doesn't even have that. That goes to Dragon Quest. Again, if anyone here at this table right now, or if anyone listening to this after we've recorded it, let me know if I'm right or wrong. Because
I think if you want to argue that with Dragon Quest, that's fine. But then you basically discount the rest of the world, because I don't think Dragon Quest has that impact on everywhere but Japan.
I'll take it with myself, for example. I never even heard of the Dragon Quest series up until they released Dragon Quest 11 for the Switch. Okay. Whereas Final Fantasy, I've heard it my entire life growing up.
Final Fantasy has been ubiquitous outside of like.
Yes, because every Dragon Quest game hasn't come over here. Like I think, you know,
and they didn't even start coming over here until
like 8 or something
on a regular, regular basis until like 8, I believe.
Yeah,
and I also think as it's a disservice to if we're going to mention creators, Hironobu Sakaguchi.
Yeah,
who I think Square made their Pixel remakes. I think in part to be able to take his name off of the games. Like I think his impact and his legacy has been greatly damaged by the fact that he left the company, and they I'm not saying that to diminish Final Fantasy right now. I want to praise the man, because you are right. The title that opened up Japanese RPGs again in a massive way. They were here, but in a massive way to the world was Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, I have to give that.
And I think that you mentioned 7, and 7 definitely opened the floodgates up. 8 did not help following 7. And then we had 9 and 10. And 10 was also very successful, I want to say. But I think around 12, people started, the series and the zeitgeist of the idea of what these games were started tapering off a little bit for a little while.
You say that, but Lightning from Final Fantasy 13 is like, at least in Japan, is considered one of the best characters in the series. Like, not
Right.
best, but most loved characters in the series.
But
so again, we're kind of talking. We are talking from a not the culture that the game was born in. We're talking about a culture that's kind of adopted it.
Right. Well, but also, speaking of that, like from 12 to 13 is several years, because there was, they were working on doing 11. They focused on the online game for a while. So there was like,
well, then they delayed 13 to put it on the 360 as well.
Yeah, I think there was like 4 or 5 years in between those two games, or it feels like that.
My controversial opinion.
Here we go.
Final Fantasy is by far the most overhyped game series ever.
That's a good controversial one right there. Fire away.
From even in my elementary school years, I had classmates playing Final Fantasy VII. All the way up until middle school, everyone talked about Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Strikes Back or something like that. I don't know.
I think it's Lightning. I think it's Lightning Returns.
Yeah,
I think it's Lightning 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah. Something like that. And
it is now. We've rewritten
Lightning
history.
2, even more lightninger.
Yes.
And going into my high school years, going into my college time, everyone just kept putting the hype of Final Fantasy higher and higher, to where it's not even touching the pedestal anymore of it.
So basically, word of mouth soured you on Final Fantasy.
The hype train.
I will say, Final Fantasy VIII, with the exception of one other, because we've had enough controversial statements here. Final Fantasy VIII is dog shit. Like pure dog shit.
I actually like Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh,
and
my
I think Final Fantasy.
God.
I will agree that I believe Final Fantasy VII is incredibly overhyped.
I would have
It's
to agree with
overrated,
that.
definitely.
I would definitely have to agree with both of those terms, Brady. 9, Jay knows 9 is my favorite Final Fantasy game.
That's the reason why I didn't say what I was going to say. Which again, now the genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah.
Final Fantasies 8 and 9 vacillate between my worst Final Fantasy of all time. I think 9 is a complete pandering, useless fucking game that didn't need to be made. It calls back. It's the first one really that heavily calls back on tropes, not just monsters or spells, but like actual set pieces, audio cues, things like that would eventually start plaguing the title way more in the later.
They were scrambling
versions.
to make up for 8. So
Yeah, they were scrambling to make up for dog shit, also known as Final Fantasy VIII.
With all of these,
I like 8, and I understand that it is very
all of our
abrasive.
17 regular audience are just going to just disappear now.
Yeah, we've said something here that's going to piss
Yeah.
it was like
some
15 minutes of diatribe on Final Fantasy.
That's why our number one game of all time is Custer's Revenge.
Don't look that up if you have
please no.
children around.
Please no.
No. Look it up without children around, because you might get arrested if you do the other way.
Yeah,
That's a fucked up game. All right, so
with all of these things being said, I make the motion to put Mario at number 1.
I was hoping you were to say make the motion to make Custer's Revenge number 1.
We've been doing this for an hour 45. Mario number 1, cool.
I don't want to drag people over the finish. Like, this was my number 1. I don't want to feel like I've dragged people over the finish
Like,
line.
to be honest, like a lot of I'm feeling, and it could be that it is late. So a lot of this is just kind of arbitrary, because these are like,
No, I mean, again,
especially
yes,
with these top 2,
this
they are like
what we have performed
Really
here
close.
is
like
100%
really big franchises.
subjective, arbitrary. It is based upon our likes and our dislikes, and what we have personally felt. And
Well, what I'm saying is more like it's like Mario and Final Fantasy are 2 huge things that have had the most impact of more impact than most games have ever had, and like
honestly, I would say both of them, like with the exception of one that got nuclear bulleted. I think, you could say for
Yeah.
those 2 games, they've had more impact on video games.
Otherwise, we'd be arguing over
Yeah.
3 franchises.
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
really good that that Jody did.
I knew
bullet that, 'cause it would've been-
I perceived this was going to be a problem. That's
Bullshit.
why.
You wanted a 3-to-1 kill to death ratio.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what you wanted.
For me personally, as much as I do love Final Fantasy, and even though I didn't have a GameCube or an N64, so I didn't get to play those Mario games. I think Mario, as a franchise, has affected video games historically ever since 1983. To the point of where he's been saturated in the zeitgeist and the memory of everyone that's played any really, hardly any video games knows who that character is.
He's also been saturated in sewage because he goes down pipes all the time.
That's very true.
There you go. All right. So therefore, then, finally, we have 100% completely objective, non-emotional, undisputed, cannot be argued against, the Travelers of the Omnibus top 5 video game series / franchises of all time. Number 5, Forever, Soul Calibur. Number 4, Resident Evil. Number 3, God of War. I can't do a cool voice.
God of War.
There we go. God of War. Number 2, dum boom dum boom dum boom dum boom dum boom dum boom dum boom. There's no voice saying Final Fantasy. So Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy.
And number 1, it's me, Mario.
I was waiting to say that.
Everybody have a Mario moment. There we go. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. The top 5 greatest video game franchises and series of all time.
And if you have any, problems with the list or any of our controversial opinions, just look up Ethan Skinner's number and text him and tell him. No, don't do that.
Did you just tell people to dox
Dox
Ethan?
Ethan?
No,
Did we even go
that's
over?
not how doxing works. I would have to have told them to.
First was the Shinedown script. Second was going back in time and calling him a shit boy in kindergarten. Now you're doxing him. I think
That's
you
not
got.
how doxing works.
I
think you
can't
gotta-
just.
I'm coming to a realization. I don't think Brady's a true friend to me.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I went crazy for about 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
What is time, Jody?
Yeah, time
I don't know.
What is time?
have
2
no
minutes to
meaning.
me could be a lifetime to a mayfly.
That's very true.
Yes.
So I went crazy for 2.5 minutes.
Okay, there we go.
And it all had to be cut.
Yes.
If you know me, you know why.
Uh-huh.
If you
Yeah.
don't know me, you
know
probably
why.
still know why.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is our top 5. Again, any questions or comments on it, travelersontheomnibus at gmail.com. Travelersontheomnibus at gmail.com. This bus has got one flat tire, but it's rolling on in, baby.
Yeah.
So
We're somehow doing better than we've been doing with the outros for the last one.
no, because it's just been cut out.
Well, they won't know that.
That's
no,
very
they
true.
will, because I just had to reference that it had to be cut out due to my craziness.
Well, you didn't have to. You can cut
Ethan,
this
what
out
is
too.
Fearology?
Fearology is a horror movie podcast done by J.L. Kite. He talks about he goes into a deep dive about. What are you doing?
You just sounded. You got this waver.
Listen to Fearology.
You've got this
found on
waver in
spot.
your voice that made me think like you need
I've got it. Okay.
you need this.
Okay, the Shinedown script.
Oh.
Okay, then going back in time, calling him a shit boy. Then the doxing.
Yes.
Finally,
That's not how doxing works.
finally, Brady petting Ethan like a cat. Ethan is actually Ernst Blofeld.
I was trying to show him that he's my friend.
There's no camera.
Trying to show
Michael
them.
Hill and Jason Holder host a podcast
Did you
called
finish with the
Whiskey and
Fearology
Wrestling.
thing? I'm sorry.
They talk about wrestling and whiskey and sometimes whiskey. You should check them out. They're on all the platforms.
They're on all the platforms. Friendster,
Yep.
MySpace.
You got it.
Live Journal.
AIM Messenger.
Yeah.
MSN Messenger. Yahoo Messenger.
All the best.
All the messengers.
Jared Hubbard. No. You've done one. Suss it. Jared Hubbard and Kevin Shelton. Oh, yeah. host a show called Silence Your Cell Phones. It appears both in audio format on all the good podcasting channels and appears in video format on YouTube every Wednesday or whenever they damn well please. And they talk about movies and television shows that you should be watching and the movies and television shows that you shouldn't be watching. And I think that is a public service that we can all appreciate. Is Silence Your Cell Phones. Again, Jared Hubbard and Kevin Sheldon. Every week. Every week.
Every week.
Yes.
You know, speaking of Purology, you guys were on that show recently.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That JL Kite needs to shower. Like you shower. You're like,
Yeah, I'm a regular bather.
Yeah, exactly. But he looks. Also, he looked like Hook from AEW.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it was strange and weird. Like we pulled up to the studios, and it looks kind of like the studios at McNarb Gaming in Goshen, Mississippi. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you
for
Greg.
providing us this wonderful space in which we record. And yeah, it was just weird and creepy.
Was there cobwebs everywhere?
No,
no cobwebs.
No, there was definitely a sticky white substance everywhere.
Oh no!
I was just about to say the floors were sticky, but that's not what I meant.
Oh man, that seems awful. That seems like an awful, awful time.
He told me not to step into cobwebs, but there was no.
He said it was Elmer's glue. I don't know.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was Elmer's glue. Maybe he has a glue fetish. JL Kite has a glue fetish. I'm sorry,
shaming.
Jody.
No kink shaming here.
I mean, I'm sorry, JL Kite.
Maybe he was watching The Stuff, the 1986 Blob ripoff.
Yeah.
That did look delicious.
Didn't it though?
Yeah.
It was weird that they were mining it from a Utah mine.
Yeah.
And then feeding it to children.
Yes.
Who are we to say that there's not a mine in Utah that has, white substances coming out of it?
On that note,
join us next time when we are going to have a board game topic. What is that topic? We still haven't figured it out yet. But we're going to be talking about board games.
We've narrowed it down to a genre of something.
Yes, which for us, I mean, just putting our pants on in the morning is kind of challenging, but we achieved that.
It's an accomplishment.
There you go. So, for James McCarthy.
For Ethan Skinner.
For Bray Davis, yay, I got out of not doing a promo at the end.
For Jody Kite.
We thank you very much. This has been episode X of Travelers on the Omnibus.
X gonna give it to you.
Fuck, wait for you to get it
On your own. X gonna deliver it to you.
Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real. Non-stop, pop, stainless steel.